And it's just kind of that cathartic process of, I really want to look into this for myself, and then I can kind of just share my thoughts. You can take it or leave it. It's not, I don't have some axe to grind or some, I'm just telling you what I'm seeing, what I'm reading, what I'm hearing, how it's prompted me to go deeper into the scripture and examine the scriptures verses in a way that I had not done before. And that's always a good thing. When something prompts you to look deeper into the word, and even just reflect more deeply on what it means to believe in scripture itself. And, those things, especially if you've been around the Bible your whole life, these terms and ideas kind of just become, cliche after a while. So yeah, I was actually pretty proud of that conversation and the research. So if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. And remember that if this whole channel goes down, which could happen at any time for whatever reason, all my stuff is still up on Odyssey, and I do have the blog too, which I could start posting to again. It's been a lot of years since I've done that. But, as soon as I got it up, and I was able to kind of come out of the Divine Council rabbit hole, and it was kind of crazy to then just be snapped back into the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, and it's just another sobering reminder of the scale of, call it persecution, call it corruption, call it evil, call it, globalism, just call it plain inhumanity. The media machine being a huge part of it, the government being, it's gaslighting, it's mass lighting. I heard that term recently. I was like, oh, that's very clever. Mass lighting. Yes, because that's, it's kind of the common denominator with everything as time goes on, whether it's the open border and how many people are coming in, the economy and the whole political theater, this event, the devastation is mind-boggling, and, all the families and all the people who were, I can't imagine losing family members and not even knowing where they are, having somebody go missing. This is the perspective that it's apparently you're kind of not living, if you're getting offended over somebody pushing back on doctrines about angels and script, if that's your biggest concern, then I don't know what what world you're living in. How dissociated you would have to be threatened by honest biblical critique. We're all supposedly brothers and sisters in Christ, and we have the freedom to, we're supposed to be good Bereans, and we're supposed to be testing everything and clinging to that which is good. But we live in a dissociated culture and a dissociated society, a dissociated, a mass media that's their whole job. The cosmology question is more than just another debate over what the Bible really teaches. It obviously it has some pretty stunning ramifications and implications about the nature of the world that we live in today. Not just with what the shape of the cosmos is, but in terms of how manipulated by the media, how much control and influence and deception has really been achieved. The mass education system and the scope of it, that I understand why it's offensive to people, and it just, they can't, when you think about the JPL in 1965 claiming to be receiving messages from 134 million miles away, but in reality it's probably coming from more 134 feet in another building. And then fast forward to today, 60 years later, and we just had the Polaris Dawn. Is anybody even, I really want to know, how many people are still really buying this? Their little EVA with their super sleek spacesuits that just are absolutely ridiculous. And, they're still doing the hairspray trick and having Zoom calls with, it's all the same junk. It's once you can really allow yourself to think that this is just being filmed in a studio somewhere, maybe in an anti-gravity plane, but probably not even that most of the time. I think they're just using CGI and whatever else, doing this propagandistic nonsense. We've gone from the 60s and, we need men. It was all about the engineers and scientists and the test pilots who were men who would have to endure through intense pressure. And, now it's like it's a Zoom call with St. Jude's Hospital. You're promoting charities and playing a Star Wars theme song with orchestras from around the world. And then, here we are trying to make sense out of this insane amount of water that somehow went that far inland and it was like it just dumped. Even if the storm itself was a complete natural event, an act of God, you still can't get away from the conclusion that the response or lack thereof is completely intentional. How many people over the past just few years between Lahaina and, I remember the entire West Coast was on fire back in 2020. We see these things going on around the world with weather warfare or, it's all climate change, right? But the Kardashev scale narrative, controlling the weather is just a perfectly rational goal to achieve for the betterment of the environment and sustainability and all that. But of course, there's nothing diabolical about it. You can never weaponize weather manipulation, right? It would only be used for good. That's the same wall that you bump into with people no matter what the topic really is. Anything to do with the government and the question of, are they really working for the good of humanity, or is there some other objective? Is there some other agenda going on? It really is kind of like trying to do an intervention with someone who's a totally abusive relationship or a cult, and they don't see that they're in an abusive relationship, Stockholm Syndrome or whatever. Whether it's the government or science, it's a religion. You dare suggest the man never walked on the moon or never flew at 17,000 miles an hour in a capsule? It's one thing when it was in the 60s and it was 3 dudes in a little Apollo capsule, going to the moon. But, here we are now, and you got 2 women and 2 men in a capsule claiming that they supposedly orbited higher than the ISS, and it's the furthest from Earth that any astronauts have ever flown since Apollo. And they're always trying to find ways to set a new record, and it's just a PR stunt. But I was thinking about it okay, ladies, how many of you would be excited about spending 5 days in a cramped capsule? Even if you weren't going 17,000 miles an hour, just 5 days chilling in a capsule with 2 men and 2 women, and of course nobody's married to each other. This isn't the ISS where you have your little vacuum toilet nonsense with a curtain. There's no curtain. 5 days. I'm sure that, it's totally absurd. And their hair, you'd have to put your hair up, in a really tight bun or something just to get the helmet on. This ridiculous looking helmet. But then when you take the spacesuit off, you don't keep your hair up in a bun. You just let it stick out because you got to show the zero gravity. The idea that these spacesuits would keep you alive in a vacuum, it's so dumb. Sorry, I had to rant about these stupid spacesuits a little bit. It's literally the same. It's literally just like Hollywood, where they have no new ideas. They just have to redo old stuff and try and pass it off as new. It's literally what SpaceX is. Using the same little bag of special effects tricks to try and sell a whole new generation on the same nonsense. I really think it's more than just trying to come up with a scientific proof for evolution and excuse to teach millions of people that we all evolved out of protozoa millions of years ago and all that. But there really is a dissociation, part of creating a dissociated state within the world around you. How disconnected from the natural world most modern people are. And it's you can't even think about all that stuff because how many people are still missing? If the mainstream media isn't shoving it down your throat, with a death ticker with COVID, then it doesn't register with a lot of people. In a week it'll be on to the next thing. Everyone's just on this perpetual cycle of being gaslit through the media and then distracted through media. It's such a weird time to be alive. To even have to be thinking about weaponized weather, or intentionally caused chaos of whatever kind. Mars is the god of war, but it's a different kind of war. And it's like how much of the war is psychological and how much of it is through all these other asymmetrical types of tactics. And dude, Bibi Netanyahu calling the UN the anti-Israel Flat Earth Society. It's like you can't write this stuff.
In this anti-Israel Flat Earth Society,
it's beyond surreal. Was it like a week or two ago the Pope came out saying that all religions basically lead to God? I haven't even really looked into that one yet, but that seems like it should be historically significant. Wars and rumors of wars. Rumors of wars. Where it's like you don't even know what's these rockets that Iran supposedly 180 ballistic missiles or rockets or whatever they want to call them. Because that's what you would do when you're attacking another country. You're going to fire a big line of missiles, like all single file in the sky, and then they're going to have big bright exhaust plumes that you can see, they're just so you have something to film. You got to have something to film to then report, but of course they didn't even kill any Israelis. Pretty effective. Yeah. How much theater is really going on here? It's pretty astounding. But then the fallout and the death and the devastation, the destroyed lives are completely real. I get why people don't even want to pay attention, because it's exhausting emotionally and, spiritually, and it's true that you have to find a balance between being able to live your own life in the real world, going out and touching grass, being in the sun, doing things with your hands, building things, playing ball with your kids, whatever. We all have bills to pay, and we have to be grounded in a real, tangible life around you. But then so many people just want to tune everything out, and COVID is well, that's ancient history. We've memory hold 6 different things since then. It's a lot for people to have to process. I don't know. I went back and was listening to this interview. It's been a few years since I'd listened to it. This woman, Kay Griggs, who was the wife of a colonel in the Marine Corps, and she did this interview 1998, so before 2001, and talking about all the crazy things she learned during the course of being married to a colonel. He was very high up in NATO, and she eventually had, she's basically talking about how the whole military-industrial complex is a big satanic sex cult, and she just casually mentions how the Cold War the Cold War is total BS. It's all made up. And she wasn't a flat earther. She wasn't coming at it from that angle at all. She was coming at it from somebody who was married to a colonel of NATO. So yeah, you should I'll leave a link if you haven't listened to that, but it's crazy to listen to that 40 years later, and so much of what she was saying then that would have sounded probably very, crazy to most people then. How much of it is just common knowledge today? Okay, everything that's gone down with Epstein and Diddy, and everybody's talking about that level of how politics and entertainment has run for years and years. Yesterday's conspiracy is now today's reality levels, or the government and the media. The whole point of this is to be able to say, yes, this is real, and it's pretty scary and overwhelming a lot of the time, but it's worth it being able to look at it with eyes wide open if you allow it to bring you back to the source of all that is truly good and upright and worth fighting for. If it brings you back to God, if it brings you back to your Creator, if it brings you back to the truth of what this battle is all about. At the end of the day, I'm preaching nothing but Jesus. We all go. We all have a finite number of days and years under the sun. Regardless of where we are in the eschatological timeline, regardless of even how old you are, you can't, there's no guarantees. I think more and more, it totally makes sense to me how, you read, in Matthew 24, in Revelation, and where there's the idea that there's like an increasing amount of chaos and sort of cataclysmic things going on, but there's also an increased amount of saying peace, peace when there is no peace. Like the dissociation will increase. You know what I mean? And when you see it happening all the time, where people can just be in a million different their own little multiverse, their own little bubble of information and input, output, and whatever, because of technology and just because of human nature, that's sort of the weirdest part. How like you can have total chaos and death going on, and then people just going about their lives. If the crisis isn't affecting you directly, then you can, especially in America, we have developed this ability to just kind of be disconnected. We're supposedly this big whole. We're all one nation, one people, but then we're also fragmented and dissociated.
I used to make fun of people that believed in things like this, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. I want to tell you guys a little bit about why I got into it and what spurred my interest in it. So I took a flight from Lisbon, Portugal, to the JFK airport in New York. A man in the row behind me had a stroke as we were flying over the Atlantic. This plane was one of the ones that had the little television screens on the back of every seat, and obviously we needed to make an emergency landing. We were all super worried for him because being halfway over the Atlantic, you have to go the rest of the way to New York. To show you where the JFK airport is, it's on like the bottom part of New York. And the Lisbon airport is on the bottom part of Portugal. Logically, you would think the fastest and quickest route would be to fly from the bottom of Portugal straight to New York. Everybody on my flight was really upset because the emergency landing landed in Canada at the St. John's airport. As we were all watching it on the back of our seats, we watched a plane. We were right about here. So we watched the plane go like this, and then take a sharp turn all the way up to here. And everybody was like losing their stuff because we're like, this guy needs help. Why are we flying even further? So I started researching how this could have logically made sense, and I couldn't find anything that made sense. And I just kept digging and digging and digging, and I'm going to show you what I found. Sorry, it's kind of blurry. This is the best image I could find. This is a flat earth map. So the Lisbon airport would be right about here. St. John's would be right about here. So it made perfect sense that we would fly from there to there, and that this was the first place that we could stop to get this man medical attention. I started to look at different emergency landing flight paths. None of them make sense on the globe model. They all make perfect sense on the flat earth model.
29th of July 2015. A fire has broken out in a cooling fan in an inaccessible cargo compartment on a Boeing 777 midway between Hong Kong and Los Angeles. There is smoke in the cabin, and the captain has told the passengers to put on their life jackets in preparation for an emergency sea landing. Ethan Williams is recording the whole terrifying ordeal on his phone.
So it was actually dark, and I remember looking outside of the window, and you could see that they were jettisoning some fuel out of the side of the wing.
The forces on the landing gear of a plane are much greater during touchdown than takeoff.
Across the flight, so we're what I perceived to be the middle point, and there was nothing but ocean around us. I remember actually looking on the in-flight map to see where we were, and there was nothing but ocean around us.
And a nighttime sea landing on the icy waters of the North Pacific is not a comforting prospect.
My understanding of landing into the ocean was it was more of a crash as opposed to a landing.
It's estimated that 30 commercial aircraft have ditched at sea over the last 40 years to withstand the weight of a fully fueled plane when they come into land.
The wing holds all the fuel, and that structure is set up to a specific weight and bending motion. Well, with that much fuel landing that airplane, it's too much for that. You must get rid of that gas. You have to either dump it or burn it off. So that's an absolute requirement.
But when I saw the fuel coming out, I'd say it kind of reaffirmed that we were in a real situation, and I realised it was going to be quite serious. Yeah, I think we were sat there at this point for maybe kind of around 10-15 minutes, and then the pilots come over the radio, and you can definitely tell she was a lot calmer in her voice.
The pilot tells the passengers they are setting course for a US military airbase on Shemya, a tiny weather-beaten island more than 1,000 miles from Anchorage in Alaska.
I remember not knowing where this place was, and just thinking, right, great, it's a land, doesn't really matter where it is, what it is, as long as we can land normally there. We started to look for where this island was on the map, and you can kind of see this island kind of appearing and getting a bit closer. It was kind of just a relief to know that there was actually some land around us, and somewhere we could potentially have a normal landing.
So that's really good news. We're over to Sheffield into a normal landing, not a water landing. So that's really good news.
This is a huge relief to Ethan, but also a big surprise. He hasn't expected that a flight from Hong Kong to Los Angeles will go anywhere near Alaska. The reason it did is mainly because of the way flight paths are plotted to account for the curvature of the globe.
If you look at a flat map, and you draw a line between Hong Kong and Los Angeles, you go straight across the water, it's like, that makes sense. If you look at a flat map, and you draw a line between Hong Kong and Los Angeles, you go straight across the water, it's like, that makes sense. But you look at a globe, and you draw a straight line from Hong Kong to LA, and then you take it off the globe and then flatten it out, it's an arch. So it's called the Great Circle Route. If you looked at that on the Great Circle, it's not that far from Alaska in the first place. But you look at a globe, and you draw a straight line from Hong Kong to LA, and then you take it off the globe and then flatten it out, it's an arch. So it's called the Great Circle Route. If you looked at that on the Great Circle, it's not that far from Alaska in the first place.
The plane makes its final approach to the remote Alaskan island.
At this point we're actually going down quite fast. I can feel the air pressure changing, my ears are popping quite severely. It's actually quite painful.
Flight CX-884 is still overburdened with fuel, so the captain prepares the passengers for a potentially perilous landing.
So as we were coming down, it was still pretty dark. You couldn't really see much or anything out the window. I think they told us that there was a chance of the brakes catching fire because of how heavy we were on landing. When we landed, it was quite a rough impact. We landed quite hard, and it was actually very heavy on the brakes as well. And it was just a absolutely massive lights flashing towards us and rushing around.
The brakes and the rest of the plane survive. But it's not over yet. The 276 passengers are now stranded on a 2x4-mile island at a largely inactive military airbase with nothing to do and nowhere to go but the plane itself. Ethan sets about editing a video of his flight from hell.
So I thought, well, I can kill this time. I have my laptop with me, I have the footage. Let's start editing it and finalise the video within a couple of hours of being there.
Ethan and the rest of the passengers then fly the 1,500 miles to Anchorage in the same plane they just limped into the airport on 6 hours earlier.
That we didn't know what the issue was on the plane, and then we were still flying on the same plane. And actually when we took off, you could smell some burning. And then when we finally landed in Anchorage in Alaska, it was, okay, right, we're done with this plane, let's get off it. And it was a huge sense of relief to kind of be off and at least somewhere where we were back on relatively normal land.
Now, you might have some sheeple that tell you that when you see the trails coming out of the ends of the wings instead of out of the engines, that they're dumping fuel, okay? Take a look at this. I'm going to freeze it right here so you can see that this is not coming from the four engines. It's coming out of nozzles on the wings. Now, like I said, you have these sheep that are asleep that will tell you, oh, it's dumping fuel out those nozzles. It's dumping fuel out those nozzles. Well, I'll just say that you're a special kind of asleep if you think that that plane is dumping all that fuel out going across that sky. That's what I'm telling you. If you think all that is fuel coming out of that plane, he wouldn't even make it to the airport. You have lost your sheeple mind. And if you do believe that nonsense, then you have to believe that all the planes flying over you all day long are just dumping fuel. All you gotta do is Google it, check it out. Planes don't do this every day, all day long. Planes don't dump fuel every day, all day long. Stop listening to these fools. Okay, now if you look right here, that is a chemtrail. Now if you look over right here, you know what that is? That is a contrail. It's really simple. Chemtrail, which will linger in the sky for hours and hours and hours long after the plane is gone. And this one right here will not, because it is a contrail. And you'll see another one right up here. Check this out. That is a chemtrail. It lingers and stays in the sky all day. Okay, that's what a chemtrail does. But a contrail, condensation trail behind a plane, a regular plane that is not a chemtrail plane, it disappears shortly after the plane goes by, as you can see right here. Chemtrail, contrail. Big difference, people. Big difference.
This was just the beginning of me getting into this. I've spent 2 to 3 years at this point looking at different information, reading books, listening to podcasts, researching. There's tons of information. I'll give you a couple of my favorite points that really drove it home for me, but feel free to do your own research. Pilot training manuals, all train manuals, they all say to assume that the earth is flat and not moving. This is one of my favorites. So Werner von Braun, I don't know if I'm saying that right, he's the founder of NASA. All his tombstone says is Psalms 19:1. Heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. So for there to be a firmament, there needs to be a flat plane of existence. You really start looking into NASA. They came out in the mid 1950s. Everybody that was involved with NASA when it started was a Satanist. Satanist's only job on this planet is to get you to believe that there is no God. And the globe model does exactly that, because it takes the credit away from a creator. There's a whole bunch of unclassified documents. We have Operation Fishbowl. Remember what a fishbowl looks like, and look at what they were trying to do. They literally were trying to break through the firmament. Operation High Jump, Operation Paperclip, the fact that Buzz Aldrin was approached by somebody asking him to put his hand on a Bible and swear that he landed on the moon, and he responded by literally punching this man in the face. Every single astronaut is a Freemason. Pythagoras, Copernicus, literally anybody who had any influence on the globe Earth model was a Satanist. They were all practicing Freemasons. This belief gets a really bad reputation, and I believe that the Flat Earth Society is weaponized opposition, that they're put there to make people that truly believe in this look like nutcases. We don't believe that you're going to fall off the edge of the Earth. We believe that Antarctica is not a continent at the bottom, but that we're surrounded by an ice wall. And I need you to look into this, because there's a lot of information that can prove this. The elites use weaponized opposition to make us appear crazy, and we've been indoctrinated our entire lives to believe that the globe Earth is a thing. I think you'll be really surprised, because I've never seen someone look into flat Earth and not believe it. Usually you don't believe when you're just looking at what the weaponized opposition is putting on the news and stuff like that, but it's really, really hard for me to deny that we live on a flat plane. If the Earth is flat, what's the point of them lying to us? And even if it is flat, why does that matter? These are usually the starter questions that we all start with when we're trying to debunk flat Earth. The flat Earth with a dome covering proves God and proves the Bible to be true. The founder of the original globe model was Copernicus, who was one of the very first Freemasons in history. Not so ironically, NASA was started by Nazi Freemasons. This was called Operation Paperclip. We actually have documentation of this. The reason it matters that these people were Freemasons is because Freemasons work really hard to try to disprove God and to get as many people to turn away from God as possible. If we live on a semi-flat plane with a dome over the top, that creates a feeling of safety in us. If we live on a ball that's spinning at crazy speeds while rotating around the sun, and the entire galaxy is apparently being thrown through space at all times, that in itself creates fear. That creates a feeling of meaninglessness. That makes people feel like, well, my life is nothing. I'm just a speck of dust in an ever-expanding black hole. I mean nothing. My life means nothing. The globe model makes believing in God near impossible. If people knew that we lived on a flat Earth with a dome over top and that God and the angels were right above that dome, people would have accountability. People wouldn't act debased. People would know that there's a creator that created them specially, and that their life is extremely meaningful, and that they need to act right and they need to do good. The globe model creates a feeling of zero accountability. It fosters atheism and, well, we're all just on a giant rock flying through space anyways, so who cares if I do A, B, and C? Globe Earth is a direct pipeline to atheism. Flat Earth is a direct pipeline to Christianity. There's a common misconception that people that are like extremely Christian just end up being all of the flat earthers, when it's actually the other way around for the most part. People that try to debunk flat Earth and end up realizing, oh crap, I can't, they usually go from being lukewarm to like very, very Christian, Or people like me who are atheists become Christian. When you start to try to debunk it and you realize you can't, and that all of the evidence points to the Bible and points back to God, you'll never turn back. You'll never see things the way you used to. Flat Earth creates a natural closeness with God. NASA is constantly telling us, oh, this star is 25 trillion light years away. That is them subconsciously programming us to believe that the heavens are so far away and out of reach and it's just impossible. There's no logical way that they would be able to measure how far away a star is if it's like 100 million light years away. If you start to look at Flat Earth and you go in with a truly open mind and try to set your biases and the indoctrination aside and trust yourself to look at the facts and come to your own conclusions and not allow the government to do it for you, you will most likely believe in Flat Earth.
Can someone please tell me how the Red Bull space jump shows the same exact amount of detectable curvature on the horizon from surface level on the ground and then from 127,000 feet, and it also matches the exact same curvature of the supposed spacewalk that SpaceX performed. Now, isn't that pretty interesting? And not to mention these hurricanes that keep popping up. With their very odd trajectory, their flight paths just don't really make sense for them to be natural. But of course it's natural, guys. And of course this is an actual video of the hurricane on our globe. But let's talk about these hurricanes. Have you noticed how they're going through very specific areas with vested government interest? Have you noticed how these vested areas are completely destroyed and then no one seems to really help what's going on, like in North Carolina? Why don't you look into what these tools are doing to the environment and how they're affecting it? But of course the natural weather patterns, well, they're natural. None of this is real and all of these are just completely made up. But I suggest you do some research on HAARP, DARPA, and a few other things.
Will function properly with a fixed source in the center. If you add this static, alright, this is our South Pole. Let's have a constant South Pole now. Look, it's not working. It's not working because we have two field acting on it at the same time. There is no South Pole.
And the truth shall set you free from the doctors, the professionals, the religious, the authorities. You know how it says on the dollar bill, in God we trust? What God do you think they are serving? If the same Jesus came back today, without a doubt, many Christians, many woke people would do the same thing to Jesus. They would not like the truth. And he wouldn't have to mention Flat Earth to piss people off. Satan, the god of this world, has blinded the minds of those who don't believe, for they are unable to see the glorious light of the good news. They don't understand this message about the glory of Christ, who is the exact likeness of God. It is what it is.
But take heed to yourselves, for they shall deliver you up to councils, and in the synagogues ye shall be beaten, and ye shall be brought before rulers and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them. The gospel must first be published among all nations. But when they shall lead you and deliver you up, take no thought beforehand what ye shall speak, neither do ye premeditate. But whatsoever shall be given you in that hour, that speak ye. For it is not ye that speak, but the Holy Ghost. Now the brother shall betray the brother to death, and the father the son. And children shall rise up against their parents, and shall cause them to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. But when ye shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing where it ought not, let him that readeth understand. Then let them that be in Judea flee to the mountains. And let him that is on the housetop not go down into the house, neither enter therein to take anything out of his house. And let him that is in the field not turn back again for to take up his garment. But woe to them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. And pray ye that your flight be not in the winter. For in those days shall be affliction such as was not from the beginning of the creation which God created unto this time, neither shall be. And except that the Lord had shortened those days, no flesh should be saved. But for the elect's sake, whom he hath chosen, he hath shortened the days. And then if any man shall say to you, Lo, here is Christ, or Lo, he is there, believe him not. For false Christs and false prophets shall rise, and shall show signs and wonders to seduce, if it were possible, even the elect. But take ye heed. Behold, I have foretold you all things. But in those days, after that tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars of heaven shall fall, and the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. And then shall he send his angels, and shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the uttermost part of the earth to the uttermost part of heaven. Now learn the parable of the fig tree. When her branch is yet tender, and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is near. So ye in like manner, when ye shall see these things come to pass, know that it is nigh, even at the door. Verily I say unto you, that this generation shall not pass till all these things be done. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. But of that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. Take ye heed, watch and pray, for ye know not when the time is. For the Son of Man is as a man taking a far journey, who left his house, and gave authority to his servants, and to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh, at even, or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning, lest, coming suddenly, he find you sleeping. And what I say unto you, I say unto all,